this totalitarian system. Oh, one time after sort of collapse Soviet Union, I have on occasion visit Moscow, the Gorbachev here. And I asked him, the collapse of Soviet Union, whether that the collapse of Marxism or collapse of totalitarian system, I feel some differences. I asked him, no answer. He, the party secretary, of course. I make distinction. The totalitarian system collapse. That does not mean the wonderful Marxism collapse. No, I feel. Yes, next.
So can I ask one question?
Yes.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry again about reincarnation. What is the best information about the Panchen Lama, and do you think the future line of Panchen Lamas will proceed from the Chinese choice or the Tibetan choice?
Now, Panchen Lama is a reincarnation which I choose. I choose. No information. Some people say, even you see, he no longer there. Some say he's still alive and carrying normal education. So I don't know. Then official Panchen Lama, Tenzin Norbu, according to some of his sort of close friend and including teacher, they say he really paying serious attention for study. So I think this Panchen Lama problem. Once the Chinese government overall sort of policy regarding Tibet and regarding me is more realistic, becoming more realistic, then this problem easily can solve like that. Next question?
May I?
Yes?
Your Holiness, I have found your healing touch on so many occasions. When I was very ill, you had touched me and I have been healed. That's one of the reasons why I came here. But I teach in Jawaharlal Nehru University, which is a leftist university, which is now going deeply troubled because you're talking about the hope coming from young people. And young people are committing suicide, hanging themselves, taking antidepressant pills. I do not know where is my peace of mind, where is my spirituality, because I represent one of the largest centers in this university. And I mean, it's a spiritual desert that we are going through. Would you have any answer? I mean, how do I function in a place like this, and why do young people commit suicide like this? Thank you.
This is not only a few cases here and there, but in America and also Japan, the number of suicide increasing, particularly among the younger generation. So now we have to think worldwide some kind of movement. And as I already mentioned, our education, modern education system, you see, we must include some education about our inner peace and how to deal with our emotion. So unless, you see, we develop certain sort of education system which widened our mind, our emotion, this problem will continue. Only talks money like that, and power. You see, there is no sort of the technique to balance our emotion. That's the problem. And we consider anger as part of our mind and do not know how to tackle these things. So that's the problem. As I think you mentioned today, since you see totally lacking the knowledge and ability to deal with our sort of disturbance, our emotion, then relying alcohol or drugs. It's actually long run worsening. So I think we have to think worldwide and step by step, more realistic, practical, systematic system. Otherwise, this is a problem. I think will remain. Next question? Yes?
Your Holiness, I'm a media student and I wanted to ask something that is very much relevant to my profession too. How do you maintain equanimity in the face of evil? I mean, how are you able to take an optimistic approach in a time when so many hate incidents keep coming in every day? And especially when the rest of the world, so many people in the world just normalize the behavior and adopt a very nonchalant attitude unless it happens to themselves.
Actually, when we saying promotion of human value, compassion, compassion, two levels. One level mainly related with physical, a biological factor. We are a social animal. We all come from our parent, our mother. So, biologically, we need parents' affection, friends' affection. Now that, not the compassion which we are saying to promote through education, through awareness promotion. But you see that biological factors of compassion is the seed of compassion. But then use human intelligence, the further sort of strengthening compassion. First level of compassion is biased, only towards your friends, your parents, your friends. That also is very much based on others' attitude. Now that is actually attachment, not genuine compassion. Now genuine compassion, for example, love oneself. Not, you see, because you yourself, you see, your own sort of attitude towards yourself is something nice. On that basis, love oneself, not that. Oneself want happiness, do not want suffering. On that basis, sense of concern of oneself comes. Now that 100% same way to other people, even your enemy, as far as their attitude is concerned, negative towards you. But still, they are human brothers, sisters. This same right, all have same right to overcome suffering. On that basis, that level, through because of the use our intelligence, reasoning, on that level, develop sense of concern. That is genuine, unbiased compassion, not depend on others' attitude, but themselves, being selves. That we, through education. Now, so number of sort of practitioner, when they heard it is some, you see, the atrocity from some Chinese, the hardliner, they never feel angry, but instead angry, sense of concern of their well-being. 1958, suppression. Firstly, start Kham area, then northeast Amdo area. The 58 and 57, 58, lot of suppression in Amdo area, Kham as well as Amdo area. I know one Lama, actually teacher of the High Lama in Trishil Monastery. So that Lama So around that period, I think a few hundred monks arrested. Among them, that teacher, great philosopher, great sort of a scholar, also included. Then finally, he faced death sentence, execution. So, with Chinese soldier reach the place where going to shot. Then he asked the Chinese soldier, please, let me pray a short moment. And then Chinese soldier also said, okay. Say, okay. Then the prayer is started. And the basic meaning is all sort of negative feeling of other, please absorb myself. And all my sort of positive sort of emotion, such as love or forgiveness, these things, give them. That kind of wording. Usually we call exchange. All negative things of other, take oneself. And all positive things you have, give them. So that a scholar recite that prayer, and then he say, now shut me. No anger. So all this through training, through practice, it is possible to create that kind of mental state. Then such person is in no danger of mental unrest or something difficulties. So many sort of practitioners who spend years in Chinese prison or gulag, after you see some of them came to India, and when we talk, they say, they found best period for practice is during their prison life. So some of these people really feel grateful to those people who create a lot of sort of torture like that. So that is the genuine, compassion. Use fully our brain and look from a wider perspective. Hatred, anger, what use? No use. Destroy your peace of mind, eventually destroy your healthy body. On the other hand, compassion really immediately brings peace of mind and a healthy body and long life. And then, not only that, at the time of death, if you carry your life more compassionate way, then at the time of death, you feel satisfied. And one of my favorite prayer every day, so long space remain, so long sentient beings suffering remain, I will remain in order to serve. And with that, my body, my speech, my mind, totally dedicated well-being of other. That brings inner strength and really feel the fulfillment of purpose of our life. Like that. So use human intelligence. Then try to neutralize this destructive emotion, and then increase this positive emotion. That's genuine, practice of Dharma. Not just a ritual. And many Tibetan monasteries in Ladakh and there was a man in this area, some sort of horn or some khaza, and so-called sacred dance. Meaningless. One time in Ladakh, many years ago, one day some monk carried some sort of spiritual sort of articles and then sacred dance. I asked, what is happening here? One dead body they are kaso jinda san kaso
Small benefactor.
they are benefactor factor. You see, passed away. So that body now carrying with that sacred music or sacred dance. Then later I told them, this is wrong. Oh, in form of offering to Buddha, occasionally maybe sacred dance is okay. But you see, dead bodies, you see, carrying, and this totally wrong. Then later they stop. So like that, some of our sort of Kasuda, I think as a matter of fact, some spiritual sort of, or say they practice, there are some influence from the social system, the feudal system, someone top. And I think India is now a caste system. I totally against that. Now time come. We have to work. So these, I think the feudal system, due to feudal system, the landlord, in order to exploit the poorer section of people, then they say, oh, God created the caste system. So we have certain right to exploit poor people. So this, I think in Tibetan, the Lama institution, there are some sort of influence. That's why 2001, I start my sort of retirement from political responsibility. Then 2011, I totally retired. And not only myself retired, but also now the 4th century old tradition, Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temple and spirituality. Now that officially, formally, voluntarily, proudly cease. So now this system, I think there's some connection with feudal system, outdated. So religious leaders should be pure religious activities. Like that. So sometimes I jokingly telling people, this system, since 5th Dalai Lama, this system developed dual responsibility, spiritual and temporal. So if 5th Dalai Lama reappear, and what he going to say? But there's no danger. I'm quite sure no such danger, so I have free hand to decide that. So I think also certain system, including Tibetan Buddhist tradition, certain practice a little bit superstitious. This, I think, actually against the true Nalanda tradition. The Nalanda tradition is very scientific and a democratic principle. Buddha, you see, they make some sort of system, ordination. While Buddha himself there, he quite free. So different sort of practice, right? Different way to ordination. Then he eventually made certain sort of rules that no single person have the authority to give ordination. Only 5 bhikshus. So that's a democratic principle. So he himself, exception. He do not want to share his follower. One single person decide or ordination. That's wonderful. So the Vinaya practice very much in the spirit of democratic system. The 5 bhikshus. There is 100 monks. Activities or performance or something, about 100. all before they start the sort of performance, you see, the main person have to ask the four Sangha, and whether agree or not. So then unanimously agree, then carry the work. So very, very democratic sort of principle. Then, of course, the Sanskrit tradition, the key sort of practice is infinite altruism. That also is a democratic principle. Then theory, as I mentioned earlier, so quantum physics theory is very similar.
Hello, His Holiness, Holiness. My name is Kulajit. I'm from Manipur, as you are aware of it, I guess. I have two questions. One is, you have recently visited Arunachal Pradesh, and Chinese government had recently named 5 places of Arunachal. So, what do you think about that? And another question is, as you mentioned, the time has changed. The Chinese government and China is now the second largest economy in the world and one of the largest military powers. And so, what do you think? When do you think the present Tibetan issue will be resolved in your lifetime? Can you?
It is quite complicated. Briefly, I already mentioned. I remember, I think one of officials from Ministry of External Affairs, you see, once, many years ago, once he told me, once there was a meeting with some Chinese officials. Then the Chinese officials, they mentioned before 1950, Indian civil administration or some police force in Arunachal, this town area, not there. The Chinese side mentioned that. Then he responds, "Oh, before 1950, you also not there." then the Chinese official remained silent, and their face became red. One experience was a foreign ministry's official told me like that kind of experience. So therefore now here, this also now, and many names in Tibetan area, in northeast Tibet and eastern Tibet, many names changed, used by Chinese word. Some Tibetan word they cannot pronounce properly, so they change. Okay.
Hello. First of all, I'm very honored to be listening to you. My name is Pema. I'm a student from JNU. I'm doing my MPhil, and my MPhil dissertation is on Tibetan settlement vis-a-vis Nepal's approaches and policy. And I have been reading many books, many articles, but what I couldn't connect is the Tibetan settlements and the Tibetan refugees in Nepal with the Tibetan exile government. I just wanted to know, because during the beginning of 1959, when they first arrived to Nepal, they were facing lots of problems, and later on, Swiss international government helped, even the father Moran, he had helped. But in the beginning, what I didn't find the connection of Central Tibetan government with these refugees, and I don't think nobody can reply more better than you, because you have been doing, you have been helping all the settlements in India, and I would like to know the connections, how Tibetan central government was helping Tibet. Thank you.
Situation, Tibetan refugee in Nepal and in India, there are some differences. And also some refugee in Bhutan. So there are some, because of the political situation, some differences. But detail, of course, all Tibetan refugee, wherever they live, whether in America and Europe, in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, basically some close connection with our central administration. But then, detailed thing, I think, as I mentioned earlier, since 2011, I totally sort of retired. So I think detailed explanation, eventually I think our political leadership, elected political leadership, I think have, I think, fuller answer with fuller knowledge about current situation. So I myself, not very clear. But Tibetan in Nepal, Tibetan spirit and interest about Tibetan Buddhism now growing. So I always is telling them, as I mentioned, we Tibetan, our tradition, Buddhist tradition, very rich. Now, rich tradition must sort of insight that through study. That I always telling, and recently in Bodh Gaya, large number of Tibetan community, and also Nepalese and Nepalese Buddhist. I think in Nepal, I think 30% population are Buddhist. So I urging them, study is very important. So some lamas who quite often visit Nepal and also who station in Nepal, I always telling them, study, preaching, no, not just ritual, but teaching, explaining about Buddha Dharma. Then Buddhist philosophy. So I always telling these lamas, in order to teach other people these Buddhist philosophical views, the lama themselves have to study. It's not sufficient just to sit on high throne and showing something very exceptional. It's foolish. I myself, you see, age, I think 7 years, I already started study, learning. The root text, learn by heart and memorize. And a daily basis, reciting. So at that time, I have no interest for study. So with great reluctance, I have to study. Because one of my teacher keep one whip, on color, yellow colored whip. So suppose that whip is very holy whip for 2 holy students, Dalai Lama. But I already know if holy whip use, then no differences of holy pen. So out of fear, I carry my study. In official sort of function, or Dalai Lama on high throne. But when I get lesson, my tutor treated me like ordinary student. So occasionally threat with that. When I was young, sometimes it was a difficult situation, I complained to my tutor. And the tutor, she recite one quotation of Shantadeva, the 8th century's one top Indian master. The sentence, when we face problem or difficulties, if there is a way to overcome, then no need worry, make effort. If there is no way to overcome, then no use too much worry. I think very wise, very wise. These sort of wise thinking come from India. Really, really. So I often telling or try to share with other people also. I myself thinking that line. So then, okay, no problem. But difficult situation sometimes brings more enthusiasm, more determination. I think we can see in the European, among the Europeans, the generation who really experienced the tremendous difficulties during Second World War and immediate war, very difficulties. So those generation who really experienced difficulties, their mental attitude is much stronger than younger generation whose life go very easily. And even small problem, they complain like that. So mental attitude makes big differences. Like that. And then, mainly, as I mentioned earlier, dedicate your being is some way, directly or indirectly, serving other people. Good? And the Shantadeva, the same sort of text also mentioned the troublemaker or your enemy is actually your real teacher. So that kind of sort of advice is reasoning. We, as a sort of practitioner of Dharma, or practitioner of tolerance, we need someone who creates your anger. That's the moment practice of tolerance. So, as I am Buddhist, towards Buddha, no possibility to practice of tolerance. Only enemy who creates trouble. Then thinking that line, oh, you provide me a golden opportunity to practice of tolerance. Yes.
We are running out of time, friends. So just we can allow one more question, and that should be the last one. Okay?
Sir, it was really enlightening listening to you. I'm a student of Dalai University and I'm from Assam, where you addressed your first conference after your grand escape. So my question is very simple. What we are seeing today in today's world is that a plaguing global terrorism, be it the Mumbai attacks, be it the Paris attacks, or be it anywhere. So how do you see this global terrorism, and how do you feel that the humanity should address it? And do you think that a particular religion has some responsibility regarding this global terrorism, or there's some fault in that religion which needs to be addressed?
No. I always say, telling people, now recent years, the very wording Muslim terrorist is wrong. And some time ago in Burma, some Buddhists created some harassment to some Muslim in Burma. So some newspapers say Buddhist terrorist. So those people who indulge terrorist sort of activities, then reality no longer Buddhist, no longer Islam practitioner. So the Islam, according to Islam, you see, the who create some bloodshed, no longer genuine Islam practitioner. And according to Islam, you see, you have to extend your love, entire creature of Allah. So religion all have same potential, in spite of different philosophical views. So I think the wording Muslim terrorist or Buddhist terrorist is, I think, wrong.
Just
And
one more
then,
only.
I think basically, as we already discussed, circumstances, the society, materialistic culture, materialistic way of thinking, way of life, So there's much emphasis, we and they. Then religion also then use according that mental attitude. Now that we have to work. So I think it is totally wrong. Oh, these are Muslim terrorists and Muslim is bad. Totally wrong. I have number of friends among the Muslim. Oh, wonderful, very sensible, wonderful. Like that.
Okay.
His Holiness, forgive me for asking this question, but your charisma and what you have done for the Tibetan cause for last 60, 70 years is remarkable for a community. But as we know that for every legacy there is a succession planning or continuity of the momentum post the individual. So my simple question is that have you planned anything that this momentum of Tibetan cause or this propagation of the Nalanda tradition or the Buddhist studies continue even after you, and how this will continue, because a leader like you comes in many generations. So are there any leaders in the making, or there's any planning in that in your mind? Thank you.
As I already mentioned, you see those students, you see, who spent 20, 30 years study. Now these generation becoming, you see, good scholar. So older generation, older sort of professors, generation of professors, you see, going, and the younger one continuously coming. So I have no worry. Then, so long we Tibetan, we kept our sort of knowledge, which now not only for Buddhist but also humanity is among our sort of knowledge, some sort of relevant, some relevant to humanity. So long we kept, you see, these knowledge intact. Then Tibetan issue also automatically go along with these sort of cultural heritage or knowledge. And as I mentioned earlier, you see, more and more Chinese now is really showing genuine sort of interest about Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So these people automatically showing genuine sense of concern of Tibetan, because of the Tibetan situation, political situation. So things are changing, really. Now over now since you see, these troubles started now, nearly I think 60 years passed. We always keep our determination, and we stand firmly non-violent principle, like that. So middle way approach, not seeking independence. 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, 3 empires: Tibetan Empire, Chinese Empire, Mongol Empire, equal. So the one sort of experience or the story. 1954 autumn, I went to Peking. Then summer, I returned. While I'm returning, I also visited Xing'an, the previous Tang dynasty's sort of capital. So the one very, very sacred Buddha statue we kept in Lhasa, that come from that temple. I saw that temple empty seat because the statue from there brought to Tibet. So one day, you see, we just, because of the sightseeing, one high Chinese officials accompanied with me. I think vice governor or something. We just sat on ancient wall, on the wall. Then there is Chinese, is a high official. Is he telling us? He didn't mention the century, but he mentioned in ancient time, Tibetan army reached here. And then Chinese emperor escaped from his own capital. So that, you see, indicates at that time the Tibetan very, very powerful. So imagine the emperor himself, you see, have to escape. And some scholars say about, I think, 2-3 weeks remain outside. Then I think the Tibetan themselves, I think, withdraw or something. So at that time, very, very powerful. Then, recently, I think 2 years ago, I think one American university, Columbia University, they published about past history. They mentioned 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, equal, powerful 3 kingdoms. And then they mentioned the Tibetan empire very much concerned about religion, about Buddhism. The Chinese very much emphasis about political matter. The Mongol emperor very much emphasis military warfare, like that. So then, Kublai Khan and Gaza Genghis Khan. This is in line, like that. So past is past. It is quite a foolish Jewish justice to insist about past history. World changed. That's why I really admire the European spirit. I consider is my tutor, one German physicist, von Weizsäcker, quantum physicist. Now he, since you see many years, many occasions, I received lecture or explanation about quantum physics, and as well as David Bohm of England, I received some lecture. Then sometimes I jokingly was telling people, when I listening explanation about quantum physics, it seems I understand something. After finish the lecture, nothing left here. So I truly become hopeless student. So the von Weizsäcker, that's I think 1990s, his own age also around 90. Once he told me when he was young German, every French eye, German is their enemy. Similarly, German eye, French is their enemy. Now that kind of mental attitude completely changed, he mentioned to me. So it's these people, through centuries, fighting, killing each other. Then, during war, tremendous sort of suffering, tremendous sort of experience. So they realized war, fighting each other, is meaningless. So better to, so that also nationalism, my nation, my nation. So therefore, some kind of, because of the union of Europe is relevant. So de Gaulle and Adenauer, these two, I think more, the European continent, French and German is more powerful. So these two leaders, they have the vision, European Union. I think wonderful. If that European Union not materialize or not develop, I think the last few decades, I think some fighting, like some of the African the small nations fighting each other. So, since Second World War, it's a European continent, I think very peaceful. Even though there's some threat from Warsaw Pact, but still it's a peace. So these, I think, European Union. So therefore, I one of the admirer of the European Union. So with Tibet case also, Why not try to remain within the People's Republic of China? And provided they should give us meaningful autonomy. That means we can carry full responsibility regarding preservation of Tibetan environment. And environment is concerned, I think these major rivers which cover from Yangtze River in China, then Mekong River, then the Brahmaputra, and Indus River. This and Ganga River, you see, come from Tibet. So original source from Tibet. But the user of these river is a large number of Indian. I think whole northern India's life depend on these river. So India has some right to show your concern, preservation of those area or nature or environment in those area which these river come from. So one time, the previous Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Rongqing, one time he gives some instruction that those area which they come from these major river, because at that time, very serious flood, happened. So he give this instruction that this area, sensitive area, should not carry deforestation. So like that, I think Indian, I think have certain right, to show your concern, because millions of Indians' life depend on these things. So that's one of my own major concerns regarding Tibet, and then preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan knowledge about the Nalanda tradition, and about the Nalanda tradition, the explanation precisely as Sanskrit language, the Tibetan language, is the best language to explain these sophisticated philosophy and logic. So therefore, the preservation of Tibetan language is not only interest for Tibetan people, 6 million Tibetan people, but I think the larger human being, and particularly Buddhist countries, Buddhist. So therefore, we have to take full responsibility for preservation of Tibetan environment and Tibetan culture, particularly including Tibetan language. So then, mutual benefit remain within the People's Republic of China, and they really destroy a lot. So now they must spend, we ask them more money, and we can develop. So, money matter, they should provide us. Spiritual matter, we can provide them. Good business, isn't it? Then this negative attitude, Chinese, Tibetan, no use. Better live harmoniously. And this is 7th century, 8th century, through marriage, very close. So now modern time, not through marriage, but through more deeper level, we can develop close relations, isn't it? So I always think in that way. So many Tibetan, inside Tibet, I think more than 90% fully support about our sort of standing. And outside, there's some criticisms there. But that's understandable. And we're fully implementing democracy and freedom of speech. Very good. But majority really united like that. Thank you. Now I really enjoy So this was a Kasoda meeting, and that also, you see, give me opportunity reunion some of my long-time friend, and especially Mataji. Really, really, I appreciate. Thank you very much, and you also. When you were quite young, now you also become old.
सर एक मिनट अगर वो यहाँ से गुजरेंगे ना, एक ही जना ऑपरेट कर रहा है, अगर वो मैं उनके आगे हाथ, अगर वो मुझे 2 मिनट 1 सेकंड के लिए रुकेंगे तो मैं फोटो ले लेंगे उनके साथ, आने दीजिए, मैं बताऊँगा। यही इनके साथ दिक्कत होती है ना कि स्टेज पे तो माइक लेना
मेरे पास है, मेरे एरिया में पास है, मेरे पास ही एरिया में मतलब काम है। जाओ बेटा, मैं तो बाहर निकाल दूँगा। सब कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने काम करना भी है।
Thanks very much. Not only something.
हेलो हेलो
说，他说，来西个上不着，不前去，第一西个西个，然后也来了有些，有些有有些，然后这个差别说差别的，所以说，对吧？没搞不起来的，其实也这个条就我们的，来西个的样子，不大起来。